Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from our IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the matrix lab, the video number 20. I've been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been still working on exploring and seeing the results of using the DCDIAG tool. We have seen that the DCDIAG tool will implement 21 tests to make sure that your Active Directory and domain controllers are working perfectly. The first test we have discussed is the advertising test, and then after that we begin discussing one of the most important topics, the Active Directory database, how it is divided into several partitions like your hard disk partitions. Each partition has a certain function or a certain purpose, okay, and this is very important to know before going to the replication issues that could happen uh, uh, concerning these Active Directory databases. So we need to have all of our Active Directory databases to be synced between all of the domain controllers. So every domain controller has an Active Directory database. This database should be exactly the same as the other Active Directory database on other domain controllers. So to have consistency between all of the domain controllers, because if one of them fail, then the other will work, and it will work with the same Active Directory database for the broken DC or the broken domain controller. So we need to know the Active Directory database partitions so we can know what replication problems could happen. So for example, if one of these partitions are not replicated directly or replicated correctly, this will there will be some signs, and this will lead to other problems or lead to different problems depending on the partition that was not replicated. Anyway, so today we will continue working on discussing the different DCDIAG tests. One of them is something called, let me show you all what it names. It is named, the one is called CrossRefValidation, and another one is called the CheckSDRefDom. We will see each one of these tests, what it will do, why it is so important, what happened or what will happen if it fails. So let's first see uh, uh, the answer of ChatGPT for all. Here we can see I have give him, this is the PDF for Mr. Low Paul. He has the description for each one of these. I have asked, or what does this test do? I give it to the AI and tell it to break it down to very simple terms so we can understand it more and to be simple. So let's see ChatGPT 4 when I ask it to explain this test in simple terms. Let's see the answer.
Sure. Here's a simpler explanation of the diag/test. Command in Active Directory. The diag/test. Command is a diagnostic tool used to check some specific settings in Active Directory AD, which is a system that manages users and computers in a network. Here's what you need to know. Application Directory Partitions. In Active Directory, information is divided into sections called partitions. Some partitions are created to store specific data for certain applications, separate from the main data. Security descriptors. Every object in Active Directory, like users or computers, has a security descriptor. This security descriptor contains permissions and access controls for that object. Reference domains. A reference domain is where the security principals, users, or groups come from. Security descriptors need to reference the correct domain to ensure the right permissions are applied. The purpose of the command diag/test is to check that these special application directory partitions have the correct security references. It ensures that the security settings point to the right domains and users. If there are issues, it means there might be problems with access or permissions for the application data in those partitions. In short, this command helps ensure that the security settings for application data in Active Directory are correct and pointing to the right places.
So this is basically what the test or check refdom. This is let me get the correct name. CheckSDRefDom. It will check for, as you see here, it's saying it means that it will check for the necessary security groups that will have access to the application partition in the Active Directory database. So this is simply the answer for the check or this test. Let us Rika, which is a new tool. Also, it has a very good answer. Let's see the answer of Rika. So here I'm asking it to explain this text, okay, from Mr. Loban for a PDF, just to explain it in simple terms, the check SDRefDom command or test.
Let's imagine Active Directory, AD, as a big library with different sections, like fiction, nonfiction, and reference. Each section is like an application directory partition that stores different types of books. Now, every book or object in the library has a security descriptor that acts like a label telling us who can read, borrow, or even borrow overnight the book. The label tells us which library members, like students or teachers, are allowed to access the book. The DCDIAG/test CheckSDRefDom command is like a librarian checking all the labels on the books in the different sections of the library to make sure they're pointing to the right library members, like students or teachers, who are allowed to access the books. In other words, it checks that the labels on the books in each section of the library, or application directory partitions, are correctly pointing to the right library members, or reference domains, who are allowed to access the books in that section. If the librarian finds any mistakes, like a label pointing to the wrong library member or missing labels, it means there might be problems with who can access the books in that section. This could cause confusion or even security issues for the library members.
So this is a simple explanation. Let's see an example. So if we need real world example, let's see how this will be translated to our Active Directory environment. Let's see what are the impact if this test fail. Let's see the answer of ChatGPT 4.0 and see what could be the problem.
Sure, let's simplify the explanation using layman's terms. What is the CheckSDRefDom test? Purpose. The CheckSDRefDom test checks that the security settings in special sections of Active Directory, AD, called Application Directory Partitions, are correctly set up to reference the right domains. Real-world examples and impacts if the CheckSDRefDom test fails. Scenario 1. Invalid security references in application partitions. Example. Imagine your company uses a special software that stores its data in a specific part of the company's directory, like a special filing cabinet. If the references in the security settings of this cabinet are wrong, the software might not work properly. Impact: application failure. The special software might not run or access the data it needs because the security settings are incorrect. Extra work for IT? IT staff will have to spend time fixing these problems, which could have been avoided. Scenario 2. Replication issues in application partitions. Example. Think of syncing important files across multiple computers. If the security settings in the application directory are wrong, the files might not sync correctly, leading to differences. Impact: inconsistent data. Users might see different data on different computers, causing confusion and disruption. Operational disruption. Business operations that rely on the application could be affected if the data is inconsistent or unavailable. Scenario 3. Security risks in application partitions. Example. If the security system incorrectly grants access to sensitive application data, unauthorized people might get access. Impact: unauthorized access. Incorrect security settings can let unauthorized people access sensitive application data, posing security risks. How to fix these issues. Steps to fix CheckSDRefDom failures. 1. Review error messages. Look at the error messages to understand which parts of the directory are causing the problem. 2. Verify domain and trust relationships. Ensure all domain references in the application directory are correctly set up and working. 3. Correct security settings. Update or fix the security settings in the application directory to reference the correct domains and controllers. 4. Consult documentation. Refer to Microsoft's documentation or seek expert help if needed. Summary. If the CheckSDRefDom test fails, it means there are problems with the security settings in the special parts of Active Directory, application directory partitions, referencing incorrect or non-existent domains. This can cause access issues, replication problems, inconsistent data, and security risks. Fixing these issues involves checking and correcting domain references and security settings to ensure the application data is correctly managed and secure.
So this is very simple explanation. The check SDRefDom makes sure that the correct group of users have the correct access to a certain application partition in the Active Directory database. So this is very simple, and it is referring to the correct application Active Directory database. It is referring to the correct domain. So we know that in every domain there is an application directory database. So the refsdrefdom makes sure that the right application database is linked to the right domain. Okay, so this is one thing, and to make sure that the right security groups are linked to the correct application database in the right domain. Okay, so this is one thing. Let's see the RECA and ask it also to explain using real world examples. Just wait for a moment.
Sure. That contains all the engineering. Sure. Let's use a real-world example in the context of an Active Directory AD domain environment. Imagine a large university called Unicorp that has an Active Directory domain environment. They have different departments like the School of Engineering, School of Business, and School of Arts. Each department has its own application directory partition in the AD to store department-specific data like course schedules, faculty information, and student records. Now, let's say the School of Engineering has its own application directory partition called Engineering Partition. This partition has a security descriptor that controls who can access the engineering-specific data stored in it. The security descriptor for the engineering partition has a reference to the engineering users group in the engineering domain that contains all the engineering students and faculty. The DCDIAG/test CheckSDRefDom command would check that the security descriptor for the engineering partition correctly references the engineering users group in the engineering domain. If the command finds any issues, like the security descriptor referencing the wrong group or referencing a non-existent domain, it could cause problems. For example, a business student might accidentally get access to engineering-specific data, or an engineering student might be denied access to their own course schedules. So, in this real-world example, the DIAG/test CheckSDRefDom command helps ensure that the security descriptors in the different application directory partitions in the Unicorp AD environment are correctly set up to control access to the department-specific data stored in them. Do the same for CrossRefValidation test.
So this is very good example, and this clarifies the function of this test is CheckRefDom. Okay, this is very good example, even better than the one provided by ChatGPT 4.0. So this is a very good test, and we can see the impact if this is not working perfectly. This will refer to incorrect domains and incorrect security groups. So this will lead to unauthorized access, unable to reach applications will unable to reach the application database. So there is a lot of things, or a lot of problems that will happen if the check or this check ref dom will not work properly. So let's continue and see our lab. So this is the section in the PDF we can see that now it is uh, broke down to simple terms. We all understand now what this check SDRefDom do exactly. And let me show you all something here. Also, I think in his PDF, I think he have said there is a couple of let me see the advertising. Then we can see this is the PDF. I think here this is the event IDs that uh, to check if they are in the event viewer. Then this means there is a problem, or this is I think related to if the IC is found during the test, it typically indicates that security descriptors in the application directory are not correct. This may lead to anyway. So this is the event IDs. This event indicates or related to this test. Okay, if it fails. Okay, this event indicates the directory server has detected a client side or server side error related to the replication process. It often points to the issue with the replication, such as DNS misconfiguration or problems. Okay, I think they are related to this test. Okay, so we need to check, uh, as Mr. Loban before said here. I think these are related to this test. So if you see one of these event IDs in your event viewer, then I think this it is related. Okay, related to check. He's saying here that CheckRefDom test failure. So all of these things may be related, or all of these events could arise and recorded in the event viewer because the CheckSDRefDom test failed. So you need to check them. Okay, these are the event IDs. We need to make sure to test and to see these event IDs and check them. If they are there, then the check SDRefDom has failed in a certain part. Okay, so this is one thing we need to focus on. So I think we can go a little bit further. Okay, now go to the other one, which is the cross-ref validation test. Let's see also another explanation from the ChatGPT 4o for this the cross ref validation test.
Sure. Here's a simpler explanation of what the CrossRefValidation test does in Active Directory. The CrossRefValidation test is a tool used to check certain settings and connections in Active Directory, which is a system that manages users and computers in a network. Here's what it checks.
Existence.
It makes sure that every domain and application partition, sections of data, in the network has a corresponding crossref object, which is like a reference or pointer to that section of data. Configuration. It checks if the settings attributes of each crossref object are correct. System flags ensures it correctly indicates what type of partition it is, like a domain or application partition. DNS route ensures it matches the DNS name, the address used to find it on the network, of the partition it represents. NC name ensures it correctly refers to the name of the data section. Connectivity. It tries to connect to each partition to ensure they are reachable and working properly. If there are any problems, like missing crossref, objects, or incorrect settings, the test will fail. This could mean there are issues with replication, how data is copied between servers, schema problems, structure issues, DNS misconfigurations, address issues, or other serious Active Directory problems. In short, the cross-ref validation test helps ensure that the references to different sections of data in Active Directory are correct, and that those sections are accessible and working properly.
Very, very good one. Let's see for Rika. We need to uh, also ask it to explain in simple terms. Let's go and see Here is the, let me go further. Here, this is how we can, or we tell it to explain the cross-reference using layman terms. Let's wait for a moment and see the answer.
Imagine you have a big, organized office with many departments, like HR, finance, and IT, and each department has its own set of files and documents. In Active Directory, which is like the system that helps manage this office, each department is represented by a naming context, NC, and all these departments together make up the forest, the whole office. Now, to keep track of where each department's files are, and to make sure everyone can access the right files, there's a special system called CrossRef objects. These objects act like signs that point from one department to another, telling you where to find them in the office. Each department has its own sign. The CrossRef validation test is like a quality check for these signs. It does three main things. Checks if all signs are there. It makes sure that for every department, domain, and application partition in the office, there's a sign pointing to it. Looks at the details on the signs. It checks that the information on each sign is correct. This includes system flags. This tells you what kind of department the sign is for, like if it's for HR, finance, etc. DNS root. This is like the department's address on the internet, making sure it matches the real address. NC name. This is the official name of the department as written in the office's official records. Tries to visit the departments. It also checks if you can actually get to the department by following the sign. This makes sure the department is open and accessible. If the test finds any problems, like missing signs, wrong information on the signs, or if you can't get to the department, it will fail. This means there might be issues with how the office is organized or how the information is shared, which could cause problems for everyone working there.
Very, very good example. Let's see a real-world example from ChatGPT. Let's see how this can be uh, translated to our real-world scenarios.
Sure. Let's apply the CrossRef validation test to a hypothetical Active Directory domain named matrix.internal. Here's how it works in this real-world context. Scenario: you are an IT administrator for a company with a domain called matrix.internal. You want to use the CrossRef validation test to ensure that everything is set up correctly and running smoothly. Steps and checks.
Existence.
The test ensures that every domain and application partition within matrix internal has a corresponding crossref object. For example, if there are partitions like hr.matrix.internal and sales.matrix.internal, the test checks that there are crossref objects for these partitions. Configuration. The test checks specific attributes of each crossref object. System flags. This attribute is checked to ensure it correctly indicates the type of partition. For instance, if hr.matrix.internal is an application partition, its system flags should reflect this. DNS root. This attribute is checked to make sure it matches the DNS name of the partition. So, the crossref object for hr.matrix.internal should have DNS root set to hr.matrix.internal. NC name. This attribute is checked to ensure it correctly refers to the distinguished name, DN, of the partition. For hr.matrix.internal, the crossref object should have an NC name that points to the correct DN of the HR partition. Connectivity. The test attempts to bind, connect, to each partition to ensure they are reachable and operational. For example, it will try to connect to hr.matrix.internal and sales.matrix.internal to verify they are accessible and working properly. Example output. When you run the CrossRef validation test on the matrix.internal domain, the test will provide feedback on each of these areas. If the test finds any issues, it might indicate missing crossref objects for partitions, which means some partitions might not be correctly referenced. Incorrect attribute values in the crossref objects, such as mismatched DNS root values, indicating DNS misconfigurations. Connectivity issues, meaning some partitions might not be reachable, which could point to network or replication problems. Conclusion. By running the CrossRefValidation test on matrix.internal, you ensure that all parts of your domain are correctly referenced, configured, and reachable, helping maintain the integrity and functionality of your Active Directory environment.
Very, very good answer. Let's see also what if this test will fail. Just so he give us a little bit or a hint if one of these will fail, what will happen. But let's see also the answer of ChatGPT 4o.
Sure, here's an explanation of the CrossRefValidation test in layman's terms. What is the CrossRefValidation test? Purpose. The CrossRefValidation test checks that the references between different parts of Active Directory, AD, are valid and correctly set up. This ensures that all the links between various sections of the directory are working properly. Real-world examples and impacts if the CrossRefValidation test fails. Scenario 1. Invalid references between parts of the directory. Example. Imagine a big office building with multiple departments. Each department has a directory that lists contacts and resources. If the contact information for one department is incorrectly listed in another department's directory, people might not be able to reach the right person. Impact. Communication breakdown. Employees might not be able to contact the correct department or access the right resources because the references are incorrect. Extra work for IT. IT staff will need to fix these incorrect references to restore proper communication and access. Scenario 2. Broken links between directory sections. Example. Think of a library system where books are categorized and referenced across different branches. If the references between the branches are broken, you might not be able to find or request a book from another branch. Impact. Access issues. Users might not be able to find or access information from different parts of the directory, causing delays and frustration. Operational disruption. Daily operations could be disrupted as employees struggle to find the information they need. Scenario 3. Security and access control problems. Example. Imagine if the security settings for accessing certain files are incorrectly linked, either too strict or too lax, leading to unauthorized access or unnecessary restrictions. Impact. Unauthorized access. Incorrect references could allow unauthorized users to access sensitive information. Access denial. Authorized users might be wrongly denied access to the information they need to do their job. How to fix these issues? Steps to fix CrossRefValidation failures. Review error messages. Look at the error messages to understand which references or links are causing the problem. Verify and correct references. Ensure that all references between different parts of the directory are correctly set up and pointing to the right places. Check security settings. Update or fix the security settings to ensure they are correctly linked and applied. Consult documentation. Refer to Microsoft's documentation or seek expert help if needed. Summary. If the CrossRefValidation test fails, it means there are problems with the references between different parts of Active Directory. This can cause communication breakdowns, access issues, security problems, and operational disruptions. Fixing these issues involves checking and correcting the references and links to ensure the directory works smoothly and securely.
So you can see here, this is also one example. Let's see the one for Rika. Okay, again, we can do this, but let's see how it is referred to. This is okay, and an example, a real world example for the cross-reference validation test. Let's see the answer of Rika.
Let's imagine the matrix.internal domain as a department in our office. In Active Directory, this department, or naming context, would have its own CrossRef object that acts like a sign pointing to it. The CrossRefValidation test would check the matrix.internal department's CrossRef object in the following ways. Existence. It ensures that there's a cross-ref object for the matrix.int in that it represents a domain naming context. DNS root. It checks that the value is matrix.internal, the DNS name of the matrix.internal department. NC name. It checks that the value correctly.
Sorry guys, this is not the correct one. This is the one, or this is the real example. Sorry, this is the one. Ignore the other one. This is the correct one. Just wait for a moment.
Sure, let's use a real-world example for the cross-ref validation test in an Active Directory AD domain environment. Imagine a multinational company called Global Corp with an AD domain environment. They have different subsidiaries in different countries, each with its own domain controller. The AD environment has a root domain called globalcorp.com and child domains for each subsidiary like europe.globalcorp.com and asia.globalcorp.com. The cross-ref validation test would check that all the naming contexts in Cs in the AD forest, including the domain in Cs for each subsidiary, have corresponding cross-ref objects in the configuration container. Here's how it would work. Existence. It checks that there's a cross-ref object for each subsidiary domain controller in the configuration container. For example, there should be a cross-ref object for the europe.globalcorp.com domain controller. Configuration. It checks the attributes of each cross-ref object to ensure they're correct. System flags. It checks that the value is correct, indicating that it represents a domain naming context. DNS root. It checks that the value matches the DNS name of the corresponding domain, like europe.globalcorp.com. NC name. It checks that it correctly refers to the distinguished name DN of the corresponding naming context. Connectivity. It tries to bind to each naming context that the cross-ref objects represent to ensure they're reachable and operational. If any issues are found during the test, it could indicate problems with replication between the domain controllers, incorrect attribute values, or other AD issues.
Okay, so this is a very, very good answer. For example, if there are missing cross-reference for asia.globalcorp.com domain controller, it means that the asia globalcorp.com domain is not properly integrated into AD Forest. It causes problems with the replication and access to the resources in that domain. So we can see the cross-reference, a very, very important test to do. It links every or link or refer to every partition in every Active Directory database in every domain. This is very, very important to know. So this is very, very good explanation. Let's continue. So as you can see here, this is also the result. If you can see here, this is cross-validation test passed, cross-validation test pass. As we can see here, another thing here in this PDF, we will see here that just this is the cross-validation test, and we'll see also a couple of events, I think. No, there is no event IDs related to this test. Okay, we will not see it in the event viewer. Anyway, so let's continue. So let's see another thing here. What is this in Mr. Low bundle poll? Here he is saying that the cross-validation here is more detailed. There are some inconsistencies. Okay. In Active Directory, the configuration partition is one of the 5 partitions. We have seen the database partitions of the Active Directory. It stores configuration information about the structure and setting of the AD Forest. Okay, here he is explaining the AD Forest. The AD, the configuration partition in the Active Directory database. Okay, so why is he explaining it? Consistence. Okay, I think here, I think the cross-reference, yes, I know why he explaining this partition in specific, because the cross-reference objects are stored in the configuration partition. So all of the cross references are saved to the configuration partition in the Active Directory database. So this test will go and access the configuration partition in the Active Directory database and check the cross-reference objects. Okay, so this is very, very good thing also to know. So let's continue. This is the other test, but let's go and complete. So I need to do something before going. Let me take this because I need also to get more details about the configuration partition, because here I think it is explained more. Let's go and get this and tell our AI tool to summarize this text. Just wait for a moment. Let's ask Rika to explain this in layman terms. Let me just refresh your mind, guys, about the Active Directory database. If we go there and see the database, let's see here the graph. Okay, the configuration partition will contain the cross-reference objects. It will be stored here. Okay, these are the Active Directory databases. Here we are querying the AI to tell us what data are stored in the configuration database in the Active Directory. Here is saying this partition hold information about the physical structure, but not detailed as we can see. So let's see here the answer of ChatGPT 4.0 in simple terms. Let's see what is the answer.
Sure, let's break this down into simpler terms. What is the configuration partition in Active Directory AD? Overview. The configuration partition is a part of Active Directory AD that holds important settings and information about the entire AD forest. A forest is like a big container that holds all the domains in your network. Key points. Purpose. What it does. It contains settings that affect the whole AD forest, like details about domains, sites, trust relationships, and the overall structure. Why it matters. These settings help define how the entire AD network operates and interacts. 2. Replication scope. What it means. This information is copied, replicated to all domain controllers in the forest. Why it matters. This ensures that every domain controller has the same information and can apply the right policies and settings. Forest-wide configuration settings. Schema. This is like a blueprint that defines the types of objects, like users, groups, computers, and their properties. Any changes here are replicated to all domain controllers. Sites and subnets. This information helps the network understand its physical layout, like which parts of the network are in which locations. It helps optimize data replication and interactions based on geography. Trust relationships. These are like agreements between different domains within the forest or with external domains. They define how domains trust each other and how users can access resources across them. Domain controllers. This section keeps track of all the domain controllers, including their names, roles, locations, and how they replicate data. Full replication process. How it works. The configuration partition uses the same replication process as other parts of AD. Domain controllers share updates with each other using a service called Directory Replication Service, DRS. Replication model. It follows a multi-master model, meaning any domain controller can make updates, which are then shared with all other domain controllers. 5. Management and access. How to manage. Administrators use tools like Active Directory sites and services, Active Directory domains and trusts, and ASI Edit to view and modify the settings stored in the configuration partition. Why it matters. Proper management ensures the entire AD environment is well configured and operates smoothly. Summary. In simple terms, the configuration partition in Active Directory is like a central storage area that keeps important settings for the entire network. It makes sure every domain controller, the servers that manage the network, has the same information by copying these settings to all of them. This includes the network's layout, the relationships between different parts of the network, and details about the servers that manage the network. Administrators use special tools to manage these settings and keep everything running smoothly. Understanding and managing the configuration partition is crucial for maintaining a healthy and properly functioning Active Directory environment. It ensures consistency and proper operation across the entire network.
What is the relationship between CrossRef? Let's see, CrossRef. Let's see here, this one. Okay, let's see, ask him about. Okay, just a moment. Here you go. This is, I think, the CrossRef. Let's wait for a moment. No, this is not the checksum. I need the CrossRef. Okay, here you go. This is the CrossRef. Okay, and the application AD partition. Let's go to Rika and see also the answer.
Here's an explanation of the configuration partition in Active Directory, AD, in layman's terms. Imagine Active Directory is like a big, shared database that stores information about all the computers, users, groups, and other objects in a network. The configuration partition is like a special section of this database that stores important settings and rules that apply to the entire network, not just individual parts. Here's what it does. It stores the overall structure and rules for the entire network, like the different departments, domains, and how they relate to each other. It keeps track of network locations, sites, and network segments, subnets, to optimize data transfer between different parts of the network. It stores trust relationships between different parts of the network, like different departments or even different companies, to allow secure data sharing. It maintains a list of all the computers, domain controllers, that store and manage the network data, along with their roles and locations. It uses a replication process to automatically copy these network-wide settings to every computer that stores network data, domain controller. This ensures consistency across the entire network. So in simple terms, the configuration partition is like the instruction manual for the entire network. It defines the overall structure, rules, and settings that apply to every part of the network. It's automatically copied to every computer that manages network data to ensure consistency. Proper management of the configuration partition is crucial for the network to function properly.
Very, very good answer. Let's go and see the answer of ChatGPT 4.0 for our question. The relationship between the cross-reference test and the application partition. See here he's saying let's see here he's saying the cross-reference. Okay, let's see. I think here I need to see the part, the purpose, and but let's see. I think the cross-reference are uh, relationship. Let's see here also. Here is explaining each one. Uh, okay, the relationship. Okay, here it didn't. Uh, it shows the pointers. Okay. Okay, reference to application partitions. Okay, here is still, I didn't ask it for application partition, I asked it uh, for, sorry here, this is not the correct one. Not application, configuration partition. This is not correct. Okay, let's do configuration partition. Let's see this one and let's, because this is not, I know it is the objects reference are stored in the configuration partition, but let's go and ask it again and then ask Rika the same question. Let's until he finish. Okay, let's see the answer here. Okay. He is explaining each one of them separately. The relationship. Okay, he is saying that the configuration data contains numerous cross-references that link various components and settings within the Active Directory. These references may also include links to domain applications, so on, so on, so. The cross-reference ensures that the cross-references are valid and correctly configured. Checks the reference in the configuration partitions are accurate and pointing to the correct location, which is crucial for the proper. Okay, so he didn't say it directly that these cross-references are stored in the configuration partition, but he's saying it in an indirect way. So let's go and see here. Okay, if we see the summary, ensures that the links or references in the configuration partition are valid and correctly set up. This ensures all domain controllers have accurate and consistent configuration. Okay, so he's saying that he checks the cross references object in the configuration partition. It is stored there. Okay, so the cross reference validation will go and check if the cross reference objects in the configuration Active Directory database partition are correct. So this is the cross reference validation. Okay, so let's read it loudly.
Relationship between the CrossRefValidation test and the configuration AD partition. CrossRefValidation test. Purpose. The CrossRefValidation test checks the validity and integrity of cross-references in Active Directory, AD. These cross-references are essential for linking various parts of the AD infrastructure, ensuring that all references between different partitions and objects are correct and functional. Configuration AD partition. Purpose. The configuration partition in AD stores configuration information about the entire AD forest. This includes details about domains, sites, trust relationships, schema, and other forest-wide settings. It is replicated to all domain controllers within the forest to maintain consistency. Relationship explained. Cross-ref validation and configuration partition. Cross-references, The configuration partition contains numerous cross-references that link various components and settings within the AD forest. These references might include links to domains, application partitions, and other critical objects. Validation. The CrossRefValidation test ensures that these cross-references are valid and correctly configured. It checks that references in the configuration partition are accurate and pointing to the correct locations, which is crucial for the proper functioning of AD. Why this matters. Forest-wide configuration. The configuration partition holds crucial settings that affect the entire AD forest. If the cross-references within this partition are incorrect, it can lead to widespread issues across the AD infrastructure. Replication. Correct cross-references are necessary for the replication process. Invalid references can cause replication failures or inconsistencies, leading to problems with data consistency and availability. Real-world example. Scenario. Imagine your company's AD forest spans multiple geographical locations, each with its own domain controllers and network settings. The configuration partition stores information about the network topology, domain controllers, and trust relationships. Impact of cross-ref validation failure. Incorrect cross-references. If the cross-references in the configuration partition are invalid, domain controllers might not be able to locate or communicate with each other correctly. This can disrupt replication and cause inconsistencies in the directory data. Trust relationship issues. Invalid references can also affect trust relationships between domains, potentially leading to authentication failures and access issues for users. How cross-ref validation ensures proper functioning. Validation steps. 1. Check pointers. The test verifies that all cross-references within the configuration partition are valid and correctly pointing to the intended objects and locations. 2. Consistency. It ensures that the configuration settings are consistent across all domain controllers in the forest. 3. Error detection. By running this test, administrators can identify and resolve issues with cross-references, preventing potential disruptions to the AD infrastructure. Summary. The cross-ref validation test is critical for ensuring that the links or references in the configuration partition of Active Directory are valid and correctly set up. This ensures that all domain controllers have accurate and consistent configuration information, which is essential for the smooth operation and replication of the AD infrastructure. In essence, it helps maintain the integrity and proper functioning of the entire AD forest by verifying the correctness of crucial configuration settings and references.
So this is very, very good example. If we go and check again here, I asked it a direct question. Let me show you all here what I asked it. I asked it just a moment. If you go there and let me show you here something. Okay, here saying where are the cross-reference validation objects stored exactly? So here, when I asked it this question, it say it is the location, it is stored in the configuration naming context. So here are the cross-reference objects are stored in the configuration Active Directory partition or naming context. So the cross-ref validation test will check the cross-reference objects in the configuration database partition in every Active Directory database. So this is one thing. Let's go to Rika and see the answer.
The cross-ref validation test in Active Directory, AD, is closely related to the configuration partition in the following ways. The cross-ref validation test checks the consistency and configuration of cross-ref objects in the configuration container. These cross-ref objects represent all the naming contexts, NCs, in the AD forest, including domain NCs, schema NC, configuration NC, and application NCs. The configuration container itself is part of the configuration partition. So the cross-ref validation test is specifically checking the cross-ref objects within the configuration partition. The configuration partition stores forest-wide configuration settings, including details about domains, sites, trust relationships, schema, and other forest-wide configuration settings. The CrossRef validation test verifies that all these settings are properly represented by CrossRef objects in the configuration container. The CrossRef validation test also checks connectivity to the naming contexts, NCs, that the CrossRef objects represent. This ensures that the NCs, which are stored in the configuration partition, are reachable and operational. So in summary, the CrossRef validation test specifically targets the CrossRef objects in the configuration container, which is part of the configuration partition. It verifies that all the naming contexts NCs in the AD forest, including those stored in the configuration partition, are properly represented, configured, and accessible. Any issues found by the CrossRef validation test could indicate problems with the configuration partition or inconsistencies in the forest-wide settings stored in it.
So this is a very, very good example. Let's continue our scenario. Okay, we have 1 hour. Okay, so let's continue our video. So here I will show you how we can access the or see the configuration of or see the structure of the Active Directory database. If we go and open, I think we can go here and open something here. If we go and open, I think, a tool that we can access the structure of the Active Directory database. Let's see here. Here I'm just checking the errors in the DCDIAG. This is the DCDIAG report, okay, for my primary domain controller. Can go further, so we can see there is some replication errors. So here we will see also some DFSR event. This is related to the replication of the sysvol folder. Okay, so we will see a lot of errors. I have shown you all in the previous video that we can generate a detailed professional report using the Google Gemini Pro 1.5. Here, if we need to access and see the partitions, okay, of the Active Directory database, this can be done simply by accessing some tools, okay. So here, I think what I'm doing here, I'm checking. This is the DCDIAG. Okay, what I'm doing here, I'm exporting the job, okay, for running the DCDIAG command daily on this server. I will copy this task or export this task and put it on my additional domain controller. So if this is down, it can run from the other domain controller. Okay, so I am exporting the task, and then I need to go to the additional domain controller and import this task. So this is basically what I'm doing here. I'm exporting the task that will run DCDIAG command daily every day on this server, and this command will get a report for all of the main controllers in the site. This I will do it, or I will copy this task and put it on my additional domain controller. Okay, so this basically what I'm doing. I'm copying the task and then open run, and then access my D partition on my additional domain controller. I can access the admin share or the hidden admin share. This is the D partition, and then I will put it here. This is for my other server. I will paste, this is the exported task. I will put it in a folder. Or what I need to do, I need to put or create a folder, because the DCDIAG command will put the report in the DCDIAG folder. So this is the task. The task needs to run efficiently. It needs to have a folder in the D partition named DCDIAG, because this task will run the DCDIAG command. It will generate a report. It will be saved to this folder, DCDIAG. Okay. So this is a way that you can export tasks from the schedule task in Windows, or the task scheduler in Windows, and import them to other operating systems, especially Windows. Okay, now we will access, and then we will export or import the task. Okay, we'll go to the control panel, and then go to Windows Tools. Then we will go to the task scheduler, and then we need to import the task. Okay, now we go to the D partition. Here is the exported task, open. Then it will go with the same setting. Okay, so now our task is imported, and it will run on both domain controllers. Okay, so now we can continue working. Now these are the other tests that will be run. So we have discussed the advertising, the cross-reference, the CheckSDRefDom. So now we can go and continue working with the other tests. Okay, for example, the FSMOCheck. Okay, this is a test that will be done using the DCDIAG tool. So here, what is first FSMO roles? Let me show you all the answer of ChatGPT for all concerning what are the FSMO roles. If you go there and check, let me see what are the FSMO roles here. So let me show you all, or go there, and let's go and see. I think this is not here. Okay, just wait for a moment. So no, I think this is for the okay, this is not it. Okay, let me get the answer here, just a moment. Here you go. This is, I think here, this is one for copy. I think, let's wait for a moment. Copy link, and then we will go and see here this one. Control V. I think this is check AD partitions. No, this is not it. Let me get another one. Copy, and let's see this one. Then Control V. So I think this is not it again. Let's see here. Not the cross reference. No, this is not it. I think, let me copy this one, and let's go there. I have already prepared the answer before, but this is check AD partitions. Let's see. No, this is not the one. We can go and copy, I think this one. Copy it. I can tell it to explain active or FSMO roles in layman terms, but let's first see if I have the correct one. No, not. Okay, we can ask it to explain FSMO roles in layman terms. So here, as we can see, this is the explanation of the FSMO roles one by one. We will see the answer, and I will stop here. Let me ask the same question for Rika and see how it will respond. Here we can see this is the answer of uh, ChatGPT. Let's see the answer.
Sure, let's explain FSMO, Flexible Single Master Operations roles in layman's terms. Hash. What are FSMO roles? Overview, FSMO roles are specific responsibilities assigned to certain servers within an Active Directory AD environment to ensure smooth and coordinated operation. Think of these roles as special jobs or tasks that only certain servers, called domain controllers or DCs, can perform. The 5 FSMO roles. 1. Schema master. Analogy. Imagine a library where
Okay, what seems to be the problem? Let's see if we can run it again.
Sure, let's explain FSMO, Flexible Single Master Operations roles in layman's terms. What are FSMO roles? Overview. FSMO roles are specific responsibilities assigned to certain servers within an Active Directory AD environment to ensure smooth and coordinated operation. Think of these roles.
Okay, this is not readable. Okay, let's see if we can read it loudly.
Sure, let's explain FSMO, Flexible Single Master Operations, roles in layman's terms. What are FSMO roles? Overview. FSMO roles are specific responsibilities assigned to certain servers within an Active Directory AD environment to ensure smooth and coordinated operation. Think of these roles as special jobs or tasks that only certain servers, called domain controllers or DCs, can perform. The 5 FSMO roles. 1. Schema master. Analogy. Imagine a library where new types of books and rules for cataloging them need to be created. The schema master is like the head librarian who decides how new types of books are added to the catalog and what information needs to be recorded for each type. Purpose. It controls updates and changes to the AD schema, which is the blueprint that defines the structure of the AD database, like what kind of information can be stored about users, computers, etc. 2. Domain naming master. Analogy. Think of this role as the person in charge of naming new branches in a library system. They ensure that no two branches have the same name and that each branch is added correctly to the system. Purpose. It manages the addition of new domains to the AD forest, ensuring that each domain has a unique name and is correctly integrated into the overall structure. 3. Relative ID, RID, master. Analogy. Consider this role as the person responsible for giving out unique library card numbers. They make sure that each new card, or user/computer account, gets a unique identifier. Purpose. It allocates unique ID numbers, RIDs, to objects, like users and computers, within a domain, ensuring that every object has a unique identifier. 4. PDC emulator, Primary Domain Controller Emulator. Analogy. This role is like the chief librarian who handles important tasks like coordinating book checkouts, managing changes to the library system, and keeping the clock synchronized across all branches. Purpose. It acts as a timekeeper, password change manager, and a fallback for older systems that rely on older methods of communication and updates. 5. Infrastructure master. Analogy. Think of this role as the person responsible for keeping the library's directories up to date, ensuring that all references to books and members are current, especially when changes occur across different branches. Purpose. It updates cross-domain references, making sure that objects moved or changed in one domain are correctly updated in other domains. Why are FSMO roles important? Coordination and consistency. These roles ensure that critical operations within the AD environment are coordinated and consistent. Without these roles, there could be conflicts, duplicate entries, or outdated information, leading to confusion and potential security issues. What happens if an FSMO role fails? Impact. If a server holding an FSMO role fails, it can cause various issues depending on which role it holds. For example, schema master failure. New types of objects can't be added to the AD schema. Domain naming master failure. New domains can't be added to the forest. RID master failure. New user or computer accounts can't get unique IDs. PDC emulator failure. Password changes might not sync properly, and time synchronization issues can arise. Infrastructure master failure. Cross-domain references might not be updated correctly. Recovery. In case of a failure, the roles can be transferred to another domain controller to restore normal operations. Summary. FSMO roles in simple terms. FSMO roles are special jobs assigned to specific servers in an AD network to keep everything running smoothly. These roles ensure tasks like managing unique IDs, adding new domains, updating the directory, and more are handled correctly. If a server with an FSMO role fails, it can cause specific issues, but these roles can be moved to another server to fix the problems. By understanding these roles, you can appreciate how AD maintains order and efficiency in managing network resources and users.
So we can see this is a good answer. We will finally see the last answer for Rika, and we'll stop at minute 37:05.
Here's an explanation of FSMO, Flexible Single Master Operation, roles in Active Directory, AD, in layman's terms. Imagine Active Directory is like a big city with different neighborhoods, domains. Each neighborhood has its own city hall, domain controller, that manages things like addresses, phone numbers, and other records for the neighborhood. Now, there are some city-wide functions that need to be managed centrally, like naming, deciding on unique names for streets, buildings, etc. across the whole city. Schema, updating the city's master blueprint schema that defines what kinds of buildings, streets, etc. can be added to the city. Domains, managing the relationships between different neighborhoods, domains, in the city. Replication, coordinating data transfer between different city halls, domain controllers, to keep records consistent citywide. RIDs, allocating unique identifier numbers to buildings, streets, etc. across the city. In Active Directory, these citywide functions are managed by special City Hall servers called FSMO, Flexible Single Master Operation, role holders. Each City Hall can hold one or more of these citywide roles. For example, there could be a citywide naming master that decides on unique names citywide, a citywide schema master that updates the city's master blueprint, a citywide domain master that manages relationships between neighborhoods, domains, a citywide RID master that allocates unique identifier numbers citywide, a citywide infrastructure master that coordinates data transfer between city halls. So in simple terms, FSMO roles are like citywide managers in Active Directory that handle specific citywide functions like naming, schema, domains, replication, and unique identifiers. Each domain controller can hold one or more of these citywide roles to coordinate the citywide functions across the entire city, AD Forest.
So we can see here that this is the explanation. By the way, in every forest, you should have only one schema master and one domaining name master. This should be one held by one domain controller in the entire forest. As for the infrastructure master and the RAID master and the PDC emulator, every domain uh, should have these. So in any domain, only one domain controller should hold three. So for example, if I have paris.matrix.internal, there will be three, or there will be a domain controller that holds the three roles in the paris.matrix.internal. As for example, london.matrix.internal, we will have only one domain controller in this domain that hold the three server roles. As for matrix.internal in general, we'll have only one domain controller that will be the schema master for the entire forest and the domain naming master for the entire forest. and this can be moved, as we have seen here, it can be moved across DCs. But one thing here before I close this subject, uh, the test which is called FSMO, as we can see here, this is the graph. We will see that forest wide only one of each per forest, okay, the schema master and domain name master. As for domain wide, only red master, infrastructure master, PDC emulator, only one of each per domain. So you will have, if you have, for example, two domain controllers in a domain, only one of them will hold the three, or you can distribute them between the two, but they should not hold the same role. So for example, the primary domain controller can be a read master, but the additional domain controller cannot be the read master. So it is they cannot hold the same server feature, or the server role should be not held by two domain controllers. So this is one thing also to put in mind. But one thing, because uh, not to be conflicted, the FSMOCheck test done by the DCDIAG, it will not check for the FSMO roles. Okay, what? Okay, I will stop here. The next time you will see this is the command that we can use to see who is the current holder of these roles. But again, not to be confused, the FSMOCheck test done by the DCDIAG tool, it is not it will not check for these roles. There is another thing completely, it's a different thing. We will see in the upcoming video what this test will do exactly. But to make sure that you know the FSMO roles, and it's important in the domain, because every one of these, as we have seen by the AI tool, it will do a problem if it is not configured correctly or it is not available. Hope this video informative for you all. Until the next video, see you all. Thank you so much.